Monday marks 2 years since the radical conservative majority on the Supreme Court revoked a woman's right to choose that had been protected for nearly 50 years in America. And since then, women's reproductive rights have come under assault by Republicans from every angle. Republicans in nearly 20 states across the country have banned abortion with limited exceptions before most women even know they're pregnant. That, of course, is the red states. You can see those states in orange, which are almost as bad. Some states have targeted doctors and nurses who help women obtain an abortion. Other states are seeking to prosecute women who are forced to flee their home to get abortion care. One woman, according to the Associated Press, quote, traveled from Alabama to neighboring Georgia for an abortion, but found she couldn't get one there because she was slightly too far into her pregnancy. So then she went to Virginia. The journey wiped out her rent money. She needed help to remain housed, end quote. And then there are the truly horrific stories of women who have actually been refused life-saving care.
I cannot adequately put into words the trauma and despair that comes with waiting to either lose your own life, your child's, or both. For days, I was locked in this bizarre and avoidable hell. Would Willow's heart stop? Or would I deteriorate to the brink of death?
So long as I remained on Texas soil, I was to remain pregnant. Forced pregnancy. Forced delivery. Forced to watch him die, either in my womb or in my arms.
Exceptions to abortion bans are a fiction. They don't exist in Texas, and I am living proof of that.
Just this month, Republicans have voted against bills to guarantee access to in vitro fertilization nationwide and to protect access to birth control, which Justice Clarence Thomas made clear that he would be eager to overturn if given the chance. One way women have been able to obtain an abortion in this post-Roe landscape has been through medication abortion. It actually is how more than half of abortions in this country happen now. The Supreme Court just rejected one attempt to restrict access to the abortion pill mifepristone, but its decision left the door open for another anti-abortion group to challenge that drug's availability. Democrats are now targeting a 150-year-old federal law that they fear Republicans could use to prevent access to abortion pills that are sent through the mail. The Democratic Senator Tina Smith, who introduced a bill yesterday to repeal the Comstock Act, told the Washington Post, quote, there is a very clear, well-organized plan afoot by the MAGA Republicans to use Comstock as a tool to ban medication abortion and potentially all abortions. My job is to take that tool away, end quote. Joining us now is the Democratic Senator Tina Smith of Minnesota. Of the state of Minnesota. She previously served as executive vice president of Planned Parenthood in Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's great to be with you again.
People have heard this issue percolate for a little while, but let's just go back to the beginning. The Comstock Act was an attempt to regulate morality through restrictions on, for instance, sending things that were deemed to be pornographic through the mail system, which is a federal system. What's that got to do with medication abortion?
Well, exactly. So here you have this 150-year-old zombie law that was designed by the Victorian morality police. And it said you can't send through the mail anything that is lewd or lascivious or obscene or anything that could be used to cause an abortion. And for decades, this law has been considered irrelevant. It was sort of consigned to the dustbin of history. But of course, now that Donald Trump thanks to Donald Trump, we no longer have the protections of Roe in this country. Come to find out that this extreme MAGA movement has seized on the Comstock law as a way that they can ban medication abortion and potentially any abortion without ever having any act of Congress. They could essentially impose a national ban relying incorrectly on this old and outdated law. And that's the tool that I'm very concerned they're going to use. And in fact, as you've indicated, in their Project 2025 and in many other things that they've said, they're telling us that this is what they're planning on doing, and we should believe them.
Yeah, in a normal world, you'd say that can't possibly work and it would get to the Supreme Court and get thrown out. But we don't live in that normal world where we know that would be the case. So what does overturning this zombie law, the Comstock Act, actually entail?
Well, what we would need to do is to pass a law in Congress in order to strip out the parts of the Comstock law that would would definitely be used by a future President Trump to deny access to medication abortion. Now, understand, I think that would be illegal. I think it would go against our Constitution, but they don't think that that's the case, and that's the problem that we have. What I'm trying to do with this legislation is to draw attention to this challenge, because my view of it is that people who live in states like Minnesota or Nevada, where our reproductive rights have been protected, are not understanding that a future Trump administration led by these MAGA extremists could take away our rights, even though right now they're protected by state law.